My husband and I had an arrangement after our marriage. We each did our own thing. Until one day, he brought home an expecting woman. And I brought home a 5-year-old boy, Dominic. This is my son, who's been living away from me. He's still so young. He can't be without his mother. I gently touched the child's face, which looked 70 to 80% like mine. The delicate, innocent expression on the woman behind Dominic instantly froze. Dominic's face turned dark. I was about to make congee for my son, who I just picked up from a bar when the doorbell rang. Holding my spatula, wearing my apron, I opened the door with an annoyed look. Which idiot? There stood Dominic looking at me with complete disgust, his arm around a beautiful, fair-skinned woman. Her belly was slightly swollen. The look in her eyes was full of contempt and triumph. I held back for a long moment, finally spitting out, "Darn it." Dominic's tone was cold. "Vivian, watch your language."
I pointede her.
Pretending not to know what's going on with her, Dominic lowered his eyes, saying calmly, "She's expecting, it's mine. I can't let them struggle." I almost laughed from anger. How much I used to love him. That's how much I resent him now. I resent his youthful devotion, his gentle romance, I sworn promise of "I'll never betray you" in this lifetime. And I resent how he shattered all of it years later. I still remember when Dominic came home one day, with lipstick marks all over his neck and collar. He stopped sneaking around and started flaunting it in front of me. I demanded answers, screaming my lungs out. He loosened his tie, looking bored. "Vivian, can you stop being so unreasonable? Men need to entertain clients for business. You're not even being a supportive wife. And now you're making my life harder. Look at yourself. Do you still look like the daughter of the Montgomery family?" Later, when I went to pick him up from a private room, I saw him with his arm around a young, beautiful girl in the shifting lights. The same tender, doting expression. I thought it was mine alone. Never imagined he'd already given it to someone else. "Vivian, let's each do our own thing. You can hire male companions. Play however you want. I don't care. But likewise, you can't interfere with me either. Don't worry. You'll always be Mrs. Blackwood. I won't bring other women home or threaten your position." And now, with one casual sentence, "She's expecting, I can't let them struggle." He brought her right to my face. All high and mighty men's words are nothing but lies. After all this time, I thought my heart would still ache. After all, I loved him so much once. But now I was surprisingly calm. The woman said softly, "Sister, Mr. Blackwood didn't want this either. But the baby needs a father. You're so generous. Surely you can make room for me and the baby. Mr. Blackwood and I truly love each other." As she spoke, tears fell down her face. What a delicate little white lotus. Dominic ate it up. Disgust appeared in his eyes as he looked down at me, warning, "Vivian, whether you accept it or not, Isabel is a kind girl. Don't you dare mistreat her."
Me.
"Are you out of your mind, Mommy?" A young, clear voice came from behind the couch, and a handsome, adorable boy poked his head out. He looked 70 to 80% like me. At that moment, I remembered I'd forgotten something. All my sadness vanished as I rushed into the kitchen. 'Cause, oh no, my congee. But it was too late. The congee was completely burnt.
Aha.
Then someone tugged at my finger.
Mommy.
"It's okay. I'm not hungry yet." The little boy looked at me with big watery eyes, comforting me. His pretty face, rosy lips, soft little hand holding my finger and gently shaking it. My heart melted. I crouched down and planted a kiss on his cheek. "I can't let my baby go hungry. Mommy will make more. Mommy makes the best congee." That cheating couple was instantly forgotten. My heart and eyes were full of this adorable son. A bad feeling rose in Dominic's chest. He'd been married to me for 9 years. In those 9 years, didn't he know whether I'd been expecting or not? Dominic's voice trembled. "Vivian, who is he?" Only then did I notice they were still there. I lazily lifted my eyes. "Dominic, this is my son, who's been living away from me. As you can see, he's still young. He can't be without his mother." The delicate, innocent expression on the woman behind Dominic instantly froze. On her face, next face turned dark. He exploded in rage. "Vivian." His eyes turned red, his whole body radiating intense hostility, as if unable to accept this reality. As if he could mess around outside however he wanted. But me having a child by another man was unacceptable. The little boy pouted and frowned. "Uncle, you're so mean." Then he showed a clear, gentle smile, opening his arms to hug me. "Not like me. I only care about Mommy."
My
heartbeat seemed to stop for a moment, then pounded like drums. So cute. How could this charm be so adorable? I want to squeeze him. I held back my restless hands. There were still 2 scumbags to deal with. I gently covered the child's ears.
Look.
Looking at Dominic mockingly. What are you angry about? Isn't this exactly what you said? We don't interfere with each other. Veins throbbed at Dominic's temple, his teeth grinding as if forcefully suppressing his emotions. He stared at me coldly, his voice burning with rage. Play around all you want. But who gave you permission to have another man's child? What? Dominic? You got someone expecting and brought her to my face saying, you can't let them struggle. But I can't have another man's child. Do you think you have the right to say this? I returned his look with a cold laugh. Dominic, don't be such a hypocrite. Dominic panted heavily, then, as if figuring something out, sneered, Vivian, are you jealous? Using some relative's kid to fool me? Playing hard to get won't work on me anymore. I couldn't understand how that fresh, clean, handsome young man became this heartless, greasy, delusional mess. Was I blind back then? He commanded me condescendingly. Vivian, send this child away right now. And I won't hold this against you. Slap his disbelieving gaze on me. I shook my stinging hand. I didn't want to be this aggressive in front of the child, but when I heard those harsh words, I couldn't hold back. Mr. Blackwood. The woman cried out, glaring at me angrily. Vivian, how dare you treat Mr. Blackwood like this? Slap, right in front of Dominic. I slapped Isabel, too. Isabel was stunned. You actually hit me. Seeing Isabel rush at me recklessly to hit back, I calmly raised my foot. What? Don't want the baby in your belly anymore. Isabel instinctively protected her belly, looking to Dominic for help. Sister Vivian, you can leave now. I impatiently interrupted her performance, looking coldly at Dominic. You cheated. I had an affair. You're about to have your own child. I already have mine. We're even. I pulled out the paternal test report and threw it in his face. To stop him from deluding himself into thinking I was joking, I sneered. I am my son, and I am his biological mother. The word supports. Vivian Montgomery is the biological mother of Sebastian. On the report pierced Dominic's eyes painfully. Seen enough. Then, get out right now. Don't delay me making kanji for my son. Dominic stayed silent, staring into my eyes for a while, trying to find the tolerance and love I used to have for him, or anger and despair, or even resentment, proof that I still cared about him. But this time he failed. I used to smash things in the house, arguing with him hysterically. I'd also put aside my pride as the Montgomery family's daughter, begging him with tears, even scolded him angrily using harsh words. But when love fades, only resentment and devastation remain. I don't understand why two people who loved each other so much ended up like this. I used to be confused, but now I'm too tired to think about it. My love for him was like a blazing fire. He extinguished it bit by bit, but the remaining flame still hoped he'd change his mind. But he dismissed it. Finally, I snuffed it out myself. Even if it was agonizing, even if it was painful, only ash-like calm remained in my heart. Dominic stared at me, his voice hoarse. Vivian, you're serious. He suddenly got angry, ignoring Isabel and Sebastian's presence, fiercely grabbing my wrist with force that seemed to crush it, his expression as dark and dangerous as a stormy sea. Who gave you permission to be serious? Isabel looked at Dominic with fear and uncertainty. He didn't look like someone who has no feelings for Vivian anymore. Far from it. Clearly still cared about Vivian. Now I was angry, too. My free right hand slapped his other cheek without hesitation. Are you out of your mind? I yanked my left hand back, rubbing the red marks, angry with a hint of contempt. Who gave me permission? I gave myself permission. Who do you think you are? A piece of rotting garbage. And you want to play some disgusting forced romance like in novels? Get lost. You're revolting. I scolded him in rage. Dominic looked at me darkly for a while, then left the kitchen with Isabel. I watched their backs indifferently. Mommy, the child carefully tugged at my sleeve. It's okay, I patted his head. Did I scare you? The little boy shook his head, saying softly I wasn't scared. Mommy was so cool. I laughed and started making kanji again. After the kanji was done, I watched the little one devour it carefully, reminding him, eat slowly. Don't rush. Mommy's cooking is so good. The little one looked like he wanted more. I was in a daze for a moment. How ironic, the Montgomery family's pampered daughter, who never touched housework, learned to cook. For Dominic, I was such a lovesick fool back then. Always thinking love could conquer everything. Never thought it was just my wishful thinking. Pushing aside the messy thoughts, I finally asked the little boy, Sebastian, who is your biological father? Despite how confident I acted in front of those two, I was completely confused. Although Dominic and I had been married for 9 years, I was certain I'd never been expecting during those 9 years. But the paternity test showing 99.99% match, and the child's face so similar to mine, made it impossible to deny he was my son. If there was anything unusual, it was over 5 years ago, when I was unconscious for 3 days for some unknown reason. By then, my relationship with Dominic had already fallen apart. He didn't care about my unconscious state. He probably thought it was another trick to keep him. I suspected something happened during those 3 days. But having a child in 3 days, I couldn't accept that. Sebastian's smile paused slightly. He pressed his lips together, dropping that soft, vulnerable expression he showed others. His eyes were clear and mature as he spoke. "Mommy, what if I said, I don't want you to meet my father?" I laughed, pinching his chubby cheek. Little Sebastian, other kids would do anything for their parents, to be together in a complete family, or at least try to set them up if they're apart. "Why are you so different?" Sebastian said softly. "If father was worth spending a lifetime with, I wouldn't object. Whether he can win your heart depends on his abilities. I won't interfere. I hope you won't give up the life you want because of me." Sebastian just wants to be mommy's armor, not her weakness. "Mommy, you are yourself first before being a wife and mother." Sebastian looked serious. I was stunned. Would a 5-year-old really say something like this? I keenly sensed that my son didn't like his father much. There was even hidden disgust. He called me mommy constantly, but referred to that man with the distant, cold word father. A faint mist appeared in Sebastian's eyes, seeming both relieved and sad. Besides, my father was never meant to be your good match. Before I could process what that meant, my wrist felt cool. The little one carefully applied ointment to the red marks Dominic had left on my wrist. While applying it, he blew on it. "Pain, pain. Go away." How did I get such a cute, caring son? Sebastian moved into the house. He hugged his pillow, hesitant. "Mommy, can I sleep with you?" "I don't agree," Dominic said sternly, glaring intensely at Sebastian, his eyes bloodshot like a beast whose territory had been invaded. Dominic stood in the doorway of my bedroom, his tie undone, shirt rumpled, eyes burning with an intensity one hadn't seen in years. Behind him, Isabel hovered like a nervous shadow, one hand protectively cradling her belly. "I don't agree," Dominic repeated, his voice low and dangerous. He glared at Sebastian, who clutched his pillow tighter, those big watery eyes fixed on me with quiet trust. Sebastian didn't flinch. He just looked at Dominic with that strange, unsettling calm that didn't belong on a 5-year-old's face. "Mommy said I could." "Mommy." Dominic spat the word like poison. "Doesn't get to decide everything in this house." I stepped forward, positioning myself between them. My wrist still ached from where he'd grabbed me earlier, but I kept my voice steady. "Dominic, it's past midnight. Whatever tantrum you're throwing, throw it somewhere else. This is my house." He took a step closer, and I caught the sharp scent of whiskey on his breath. "Everything in it is mine, including you." "Excuse me?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Did you hit your head on the way back?" Because the Dominic I knew, the one who brought his pregnant mistress to my door, didn't seem to think I was his anything. Isabel chose that moment to insert herself, gliding forward with that practiced demure expression. "Sister Vivian, Mr. Blackwood has had too much to drink. He doesn't mean, get out of my bedroom." I didn't look at her. "And if you call me sister one more time, I'll show you just how unsisterly I can be." Her face crumpled. "Mr. Blackwood." Dominic ignored her, his eyes fixed on Sebastian, who had moved to stand beside me, one small hand gripping my pajama pants. Something flickered in Dominic's expression, confusion, jealousy, rage, all warring beneath the surface. "He looks like you," Dominic said slowly, as if just realizing it. "But that report, you really are his mother." His voice cracked. "How, Vivian? How is that possible? I don't owe you explanations. You're my wife. You gave that up the first time you came home with lipstick on your collar. You buried it when you told me to do my own thing. You set fire to whatever was left when you walked through that door with her pregnant belly and expected me to step aside like a good little wife." I pointed at the door. "Now get out." Dominic's jaw tightened. For a moment I thought he might actually listen. Then his gaze dropped to Sebastian again, and something ugly twisted his features. "Send him away." The words hung in the air like smoke. "What did you say?" "Send him away," Dominic repeated, his voice hardening with each syllable. "I don't know where he came from or how he's your son, but I won't have another man's child in my house. Send him to boarding school. To your parents. I don't care. Just get rid of him." The slap came before I even realized I'd moved. My palm connected with his cheek, sharp and satisfying. The sound echoed in the quiet room. "Get out." Dominic touched his face, staring at me with something between shock and fury. Behind him, Isabel gasped dramatically, but I was past caring. "You've destroyed everything good in this marriage," I said, my voice shaking despite my efforts to control it. You've humiliated me, dismissed me, trampled over every promise we ever made. But if you think for 1 second I'll let you touch my son, Dominic, you're even more delusional than I thought. Sebastian tugged at my hand. I looked down to find him smiling up at me, that same serene expression, as if Dominic's threats were nothing more than background noise. Mommy, he said softly, it's okay. I can sleep in my own room tonight.
No.
I crouched down, cupping his face in my hands. Mommy promised, and Mommy keeps her promises. But the mean man is making you sad. He glanced at Dominic, and for just a moment, his gaze turned cold, so cold it made my breath catch. He shouldn't make you sad. Dominic stiffened. I saw him register that look, saw confusion flicker across his face. Vivian, he started, reaching for me. I stood and met his eyes. If you don't leave right now, I'll call the police. I'll call my father. I'll call every reporter in this city and tell them exactly how the great Dominic Blackwood treats his wife. And don't think I won't. I have nothing left to lose. For a long moment, we stared at each other. 9 years of marriage, 9 years of love and betrayal and bitter endings, condensed into that single look. Then Dominic turned and walked out. Isabel scrambled after him, throwing me a venomous glare on her way. The door clicked shut behind them. I stood there, trembling, until Sebastian's small hand found mine again. Mommy? He tilted his head. Can I still sleep with you? I laughed despite myself, scooping him into my arms. He was heavier than he looked, solid and warm, and when he wrapped his arms around my neck, something tight in my chest finally loosened. Of course, baby. Of course. That night, Sebastian fell asleep in my bed, curled against my side like a small, trusting cat. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together the impossible puzzle of his existence. 5 years ago, 3 days unconscious. And now a son who looked at me with eyes that held secrets far beyond his years. What happened to me? And who is Sebastian's father? The questions circled like vultures, but no answers came. The next morning, I woke to an empty bed and the smell of pancakes. For a confused moment, I thought I was dreaming. Then I heard Sebastian's laughter drifting from downstairs, and my heart seized with panic. I threw on a robe and raced down, visions of Dominic hurting my son playing through my mind. But when I burst into the kitchen, the scene before me made no sense at all. Sebastian sat at the island, a plate of perfectly golden pancakes in front of him, grinning up at a man I'd never seen before. The man was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that curled slightly at the ends and eyes the color of aged whiskey. He wore a simple white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms that spoke of physical labor, and he was flipping another pancake with the casual confidence of someone completely at home in my kitchen. "Who the hell are you?" I demanded. The man looked up, and something flickered in his expression. Recognition, warmth, and something deeper that made my skin tingle. "You must be Vivian," he said, his voice low and smooth.
I'm Ethan.
Sebastian's father. The spatula slipped from my fingers. I gripped the counter, suddenly lightheaded. Sebastian's father. Here, in my kitchen, making pancakes. Mommy. Sebastian waved his fork enthusiastically. Daddy makes the best pancakes. Well, second best. Yours are still number one. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I just stared at this stranger who had apparently fathered my child while I was unconscious 5 years ago. Ethan seemed to understand. He set down the spatula, wiped his hands on a towel, and approached slowly, giving me space. "I know this is a lot to process," he said quietly. "I should have called first, but when Sebastian told me what happened last night," his jaw tightened. "I needed to make sure you were okay." "How do you know what happened last night?" Another flicker in those whiskey eyes. "Sebastian and I have a way of communicating. It's complicated. Complicated." I laughed bitterly. "Everything about this is complicated. I don't know you. I don't remember you. I don't remember giving birth to a child, let alone conceiving one. And now you're just what? Going to show up and play house." Ethan's expression softened with something that looked painfully like understanding. "You really don't remember." "Remember what?" He was quiet for a moment, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a photograph. He held it out to me. I took it with trembling hands. The photo showed a hospital room. A woman lay in a bed, pale and unconscious, tubes running from her arms. Beside the bed, a man sat in a chair, holding a newborn baby wrapped in a blue blanket. The man was Ethan, younger, wearier, but unmistakably him. And the woman was me. "This was 5 years ago," Ethan said softly. "You were in a coma for 3 days. When you woke up, you didn't remember anything. The doctors said it was temporary, that the memories might come back with time. But then your husband came to collect you, and..." He paused, pain flickering across his features. "He didn't want to know. Didn't want to hear about what happened. Just took you home and never looked back. I sank into a chair, the photo trembling in my hands. I don't, I don't remember any of this. I know. Ethan crouched beside me, close enough that I could smell something clean and woodsy. When you left, I thought I'd lost you forever. I raised Sebastian alone, waiting for the day you might remember. But you never came back. He looked at Sebastian, who watched us with quiet, knowing eyes. Eventually, I realized you might never remember. So, I told Sebastian the truth about you, about us, and we made a plan. To bring him to me. To give you a choice. Ethan met my eyes again, and there was something so open, so raw in his gaze that it made my chest ache. Sebastian wanted to meet you, to know his mother. And I wanted you to have the chance to know him, even if you never remembered me. I looked at Sebastian, my son, my impossible, wonderful son, and felt tears prick my eyes. Mommy? He slid off his chair and came to me, small arms wrapping around my waist. Don't cry. Daddy said you might be confused. But it's okay. We have time. I pulled him close, burying my face in his soft hair.
I'm sorry, he whispered.
I'm so sorry I forgot you. You didn't forget on purpose. He patted my back with surprising maturity. The doctor said your brain got hurt. It's not your fault. Ethan watched us with an expression I couldn't quite read. Longing, hope, sorrow, all mixed together. Ethan, I said, my voice muffled against Sebastian's hair. What happened to me? Why was I in the hospital? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, that's a conversation for another time. When you're ready. I lifted my head. I'm ready now.
No.
His voice was gentle but firm. You've just learned you have a 5-year-old son.
You're still processing that.
The rest can wait. I wanted to argue, but Sebastian chose that moment to yawn hugely, rubbing his eyes. Someone needs a nap, I said automatically. Actually, Ethan said, glancing at his watch, I should go.
Give you two some time alone.
Something twisted in my chest. Disappointment? Relief? I couldn't tell. Will you come back? The words escaped before I could stop them. Ethan's eyes warmed.
If you want me to.
I nodded, not trusting my voice. He stood, and for a moment, we just looked at each other. Then he reached out, very slowly, and brushed a strand of hair from my face. His touch was featherlight, reverent, like I was something precious. I waited 5 years to see you again, he said quietly. I can wait a little longer. Then he was gone, and I was alone with Sebastian and 1,000 questions I wasn't sure I wanted answers to. Dominic didn't come home that night. Or the next. I should have been relieved. Instead, I found myself jumping at every sound, tensing whenever a car passed too slowly on our street. Sebastian seemed to sense my unease. He stuck close, pressing small treasures into my hands. A smooth stone he'd found in the garden, a drawing of us holding hands under a rainbow, a dandelion puff he'd carefully preserved in a jar. To make wishes on, he explained solemnly. When you're sad. I cried over that one. Privately in the bathroom, where he couldn't see. On the 3rd day, my phone rang. My mother's name flashed on the screen. Vivian. Her voice was clipped, worried. Your father and I are catching the next flight. We'll be there by evening. Mom. You don't have to. Don't have to? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. My daughter's husband brings his mistress into their home, and I don't have to come? Dominic Blackwood is about to learn exactly what happens when you cross this family. I wanted to argue, but honestly, a small, petty part of me was looking forward to it. My parents might have their faults, but they loved fiercely, and when it came to protecting their own, they were terrifying. Mom, I said carefully, there's something else you should know. Before you get here. I told her about Sebastian. The silence on the other end stretched so long I checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Mom, I'm here. Her voice was strange, not angry, not shocked. Something else. Vivian, does he look like anyone you know? You mean besides me? He's the spitting image.
Why?
Another pause. No reason. We'll talk when we get there. She hung up before I could ask more. I stared at the phone, unease curling in my stomach. That wasn't a reaction I'd expected. Confusion, yes. Anger, maybe. But that strange, knowing tone. Mommy? Sebastian appeared in the doorway, clutching a book. Can you read to me? I pushed the thoughts aside. Of course, baby.
Come here.
We curled up on the couch, and I read until my voice went hoarse, watching his eyelids grow heavy. By the time my parents arrived, he was fast asleep, head in my lap, one small hand still gripping my shirt. My mother took one look at him, and went pale. Oh, she breathed. Oh, Vivian.
What?
What is it? She exchanged a glance with my father, who looked equally shaken. Then she sat down heavily in the armchair, pressing a hand to her chest. That child, she said slowly. He looks exactly like Alexander. The name hit me like a physical blow. Alexander. My older brother. Who died 15 years ago, when I was 17. Mom, that's impossible. Alexander's been gone for. I know how long he's been gone. My mother's eyes were bright with unshed tears. But I'd recognize those eyes anywhere. That stubborn chin. The way he holds his head. She looked at Sebastian with an expression of wonder and grief. Vivian, that child is Alexander's son. Which means he's also yours. And the man who fathered him is Alexander. I finished numbly. But Alexander died. And he was my brother. Which means nothing, my father said firmly. He'd been silent until now, but his voice brooked no argument. Whatever happened, whoever this child's father is, he's part of this family. That's all that matters. I couldn't process it. My brother, dead 15 years, was Sebastian's father? But that would mean. That's not possible, I whispered. It can't be. My mother reached for my hand. Vivian, when you were in the hospital 5 years ago, there were complications. Things the doctors couldn't explain. We thought it was just the coma, but… She trailed off, shaking her head. There's so much we don't know. I looked at Sebastian, sleeping peacefully in my lap. My son. My brother's son. The child of a man who'd been dead for over a decade. Nothing made sense anymore. Dominic came home that night. I heard his car in the driveway, the slam of the door, his heavy footsteps approaching. Sebastian was already asleep in my bed. I'd stopped trying to put him in his own room after the third nightmare, and I met Dominic at the top of the stairs, blocking his path. We need to talk, he said. His eyes were bloodshot, his clothes rumpled, as if he hadn't slept in days. At 2 a.m? It couldn't wait. I crossed my arms. Make it quick. He stared at me for a long moment, and something in his expression shifted, softened, almost. I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us. About everything. There is no us. Vivian, please. He reached for me and I stepped back. His hand hung in the air for a moment before dropping. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. The way I treated you, the things I said, I was a fool. Dominic. Let me finish. He took a breath. I've sent Isabel away.
She's gone.
Back to wherever she came from. I told her the baby. I told her I wouldn't be part of its life. I stared at him. You what? I chose you. His voice cracked. I should have chosen you years ago, but I was too stupid to see what I had. I see it now. Vivian, I see it. For a moment, just a moment, I felt something. Not love, not even forgiveness, but a flicker of the girl I used to be, the one who would have done anything for this man. Then I remembered. The lipstick on his collar. The late nights. The way he looked at me when he said, "Do your own thing." The pregnant woman at my door. You're too late, I said quietly.
No.
He grabbed my arms, not hard enough to hurt but desperate. No, it's not too late. We can fix this. We can go back to how we were. How we were never existed. I pulled free. You loved the idea of me, Dominic. The Montgomery heiress, the perfect wife, the woman who would wait quietly at home while you did whatever you wanted. But me, the real me, you never even tried to know. I know you. I know. You know nothing. I was trembling now, but not from fear. From anger, from grief, from 5 years of accumulated pain finally finding its voice. You don't know that I learned to cook because I wanted to make you happy, even though my parents raised me never to touch a stove. You don't know that I cried myself to sleep for months after you stopped coming home. You don't know that I blamed myself for your affairs, wondering what I'd done wrong. Vivian, I'll tell you what I did wrong. My voice rose. I loved you. I loved you so much that I let you destroy me, piece by piece, and I kept coming back for more, because I thought that's what love was supposed to be. But it's not. Love isn't supposed to hurt like this. Dominic's face crumpled.
Please.
Give me another chance.
Why?
So you can disappoint me again? So you can bring another pregnant woman to my door in 5 years when the next shiny thing catches your eye? I've changed.
People don't change, Dominic.
They just get better at hiding who they really are. He stood there, swaying slightly, looking for all the world like a man drowning. And maybe he was. But I was done being his lifeline. Go home, Dominic. Or don't. I don't care anymore. But this, I gestured between us. This is over. I turned and walked back to my room, closing the door quietly behind me. Sebastian stirred in the bed, mumbling something in his sleep, and I climbed in beside him, pulling him close. In the morning, Dominic was gone. But he'd left something behind. A single white rose on the doorstep, with a note attached. Asterisk, I'm not giving up.
The asterisk.
I crushed it and threw it in the trash. Ethan came back 3 days later. I'd been expecting him, hoping for him if I was honest, but when I opened the door and found him standing there with a bag of groceries and a tentative smile, my heart still stuttered. "I brought supplies," he said, holding up the bag. "Figured you might need a break from cooking." I stepped aside to let him in. "You're assuming I cook. Sebastian says you make the best congee in the world." "That's not nothing." Sebastian, hearing his father's voice, came barreling down the stairs and launched himself at Ethan's legs. Ethan laughed, swinging him up with practiced ease, and the sight of them together, father and son, so comfortable, so natural, made something ache in my chest. "Daddy, did you bring the good strawberries?" "I brought the good strawberries. And the book. And the book." Sebastian squirmed to be put down and immediately began digging through the grocery bag, emerging triumphant with a carton of strawberries and a brightly colored picture book. "Mommy, look. Daddy got the one about the dragon who's scared of mice." I smiled. "That sounds perfect. Why don't you take it to the living room and start looking? I'll make us some lunch." Sebastian scampered off, and I was suddenly alone with Ethan in the kitchen. The silence felt charged, full of things unsaid. "I should have called first," he said again. Sebastian missed you. And I wanted to make sure you were okay. After the other night."
I've fine.
I busied myself with the groceries, pulling out vegetables and meat. Dominic came back. Told me he'd sent his mistress away. Wanted to try again. Ethan stilled. "What did you say?" I told him it was too late. The tension in his shoulders eased, almost imperceptibly.
Good.
"I mean, not good. That must have been hard, but it's okay." "I know what you meant." I glanced at him. "You really don't like him." "I really don't." He moved closer, leaning against the counter beside me. "I've watched him for 5 years, Vivian. From a distance. Seen how he treated you, how he paraded around with other women while you waited at home. A man like that doesn't deserve someone like you." Something in his tone made me look up. "You watched me?" Color rose on his cheeks. "Not in a creepy way. I wanted to make sure you were okay. After you left the hospital, I couldn't just forget about you. So I kept tabs. From afar. 5 years is a long time to watch someone." "It is." He met my eyes, and there it was again, that raw, open vulnerability. "But you were worth watching." I didn't know what to say to that. The vegetables needed chopping, so I chopped them, letting the rhythm of the knife ground me. "I remember you," I said suddenly. Ethan's breath caught. "What?" "Not everything. Not the hospital or how Sebastian came to be. But I remember." I paused, searching for the right words. "I remember eyes. Warm, like whiskey. And a voice, telling me I was going to be okay. Telling me to hold on." He was very still. "You remember that? It comes in flashes. When I'm half asleep, or when something triggers it. I don't know if it's real, or just my brain making things up." "It's real." His voice was rough. "I was there. I held your hand for 3 days, Vivian. I talked to you, told you about my life, my dreams, everything. I begged you to wake up." He swallowed hard. "And when you did, you looked at me like I was a stranger." The pain in his voice was so raw, so fresh, that I reached out without thinking, my hand covering his on the counter. "I'm sorry. Not your fault." He turned his hand, lacing his fingers with mine. "But I never stopped hoping you'd remember. That someday, somehow, you'd look at me and see me." We stood like that for a long moment, hands intertwined, the kitchen filled with the sounds of Sebastian chattering to himself in the other room. Then, slowly, Ethan lifted our joined hands and pressed a kiss to my knuckles. "I'll wait," he said quietly. "As long as it takes." My parents stayed for a week. In that time, they fell utterly in love with Sebastian. My mother, who I'd never seen soften for anyone, melted completely the first time he called her grandma and presented her with a dandelion bouquet. My father, stoic and reserved his whole life, spent hours teaching Sebastian chess, his weathered face breaking into smiles I'd rarely seen. But they also had questions. Questions I couldn't answer. "Have you asked Ethan?" my mother pressed one evening, after Sebastian was asleep. "About how it happened?" "I haven't had the chance. Every time I bring it up, he changes the subject." "Then make him stop changing the subject." She leaned forward, her eyes intense. "Vivian, you deserve to know the truth. About your son, about what happened to you, about why Alexander's name keeps coming up. Don't let him protect you from it." So the next time Ethan came over, I cornered him in the garden while Sebastian napped. "No more avoiding," I said firmly. "I need to know. Everything." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, but sit down first. This isn't easy to hear." We sat on the garden bench, the afternoon sun warm on our faces. Ethan took a breath and began. 5 years ago, I was a researcher. Still am, actually. I study consciousness, memory, the boundaries between life and death. It's a fringe field. Most people think I'm crazy, but I've spent my life chasing something I can't explain. What kind of something? He was quiet for a moment. Have you ever heard of terminal lucidity? When people with dementia or brain injury suddenly become clear-headed right before death. I nodded slowly. It's more common than people think. And it's never been adequately explained. I believe it's evidence that consciousness exists beyond the physical brain. That when the body starts to fail, the mind can sometimes break through. That's a big theory. It is. And I spent years trying to prove it. But I never found the evidence I needed. Until I met your brother. My blood ran cold. Alexander. Ethan nodded. He wasn't dead, Vivian. Not completely. After the accident, his body was destroyed, but something, his consciousness, his soul, whatever you want to call it, survived. Trapped between worlds. Unable to move on. I couldn't breathe. That's impossible. I know it sounds crazy. But I spent months communicating with him, learning from him. He told me about you, about how much he loved you, how he'd do anything to protect you. And when you ended up in that hospital, when your body started failing, he made a choice. What kind of choice? Ethan's eyes met mine, full of sorrow. He gave you a piece of himself. A piece of his consciousness, his essence. To save you. It merged with yours, and the result. He gestured vaguely. The result was Sebastian. I stared at him. You're telling me my son is my brother? Reincarnated?
No.
He's his own person. But he carries a part of Alexander within him. That's why he looks like him. That's why he's so wise beyond his years. That's why he loves you so fiercely, because Alexander loved you that way. Tears were streaming down my face. I didn't know when they'd started. Alexander saved me.
He saved you.
And in doing so, he gave you a gift. A son who will love you unconditionally, who will protect you, who will always put you first. Ethan reached for my hand. He asked me to watch over you both. To make sure you were okay. That's why I was in the hospital. That's why I stayed. Why didn't you tell me before? Because you weren't ready. Because some truths need time to settle. He squeezed my hand. But also because Alexander made me promise something else. He said when you were ready, when you could hear the truth without breaking, I should tell you that he loves you. That he always has. And that he's proud of the woman you've become. I broke down then, sobbing into Ethan's shoulder while he held me, his hand stroking my back. Somewhere in the house, Sebastian woke from his nap, and I heard his small feet padding toward us. Mommy?
His voice was worried.
Why are you sad? I lifted my head, wiping my eyes. I'm not sad, baby. I'm just feeling a lot right now. He studied me with those ancient eyes, Alexander's eyes, and then nodded, accepting my answer with the grace of someone who understood more than he should. Okay, I made you a picture. Do you want to see it? Of course I do. He ran back inside to get it, and I turned to Ethan. Thank you.
For telling me.
For everything. He smiled, and it was like the sun coming out. You don't have to thank me. I'd wait 5 more years if that's what it took. I'd wait forever. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time I saw him. Not as a stranger, not as Sebastian's father, but as Ethan. The man who held my hand for 3 days. The man who raised our son alone. The man who loved me from afar, patiently, faithfully, without expectation. I think, I said slowly, I'd like to get to know you.
The real you.
Not just as Sebastian's father, but as Ethan. His smile widened. I'd like that too. Sebastian came running back with his picture, and I pulled him into my lap, holding him close.
My son.
My miracle. The living proof that love transcends even death. Whatever came next, we would face it together. Dominic didn't give up. Every few days, a new gift appeared on my doorstep. Flowers.
Chocolates.
Jewelry. Notes full of apologies and promises. I returned everything unopened, but he kept trying. Then he escalated. I came home one afternoon to find him in my living room, sitting on my couch like he belonged there. Sebastian was at a play date with a neighbor's child. Thank God. But the violation of it made my blood boil. How did you get in? I still have a key. He stood, spreading his hands. Vivian, please. Just hear me out. I've heard you out. Several times. The answer hasn't changed, but it could. He moved closer, and I stepped back, keeping distance between us. I've changed. I'm in therapy. I'm working on myself. I'm not the man I was. Dominic. I know you don't believe me. I know I've given you every reason not to, but I'm asking for a chance to prove it. One chance. I looked at him, really looked, and for a moment, I saw a ghost of the man I'd married. Young, hopeful, full of promises. But that man was long gone, buried under years of neglect and betrayal. The Vivian who loved you, I said quietly, she died a long time ago. You killed her, piece by piece, and didn't even notice until there was nothing left. I'm sorry you're hurting now,
I really am.
but I can't bring her back for you. His face crumpled. Vivian, leave the key on the table on your way out. If you come here again without my permission, I'll get a restraining order. He stared at me for a long moment, something shifting in his eyes.
Anger? Despair?
I couldn't tell anymore. You're seeing someone, he said suddenly. That man, the one who's been coming around. Sebastian's father. That's none of your business. He's the reason you won't take me back.
No.
I met his eyes. You're the reason I won't take you back. Everything you did, every choice you made, every time you hurt me and dismissed me and made me feel like nothing, that's why. Not him.
You.
Dominic's jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he might argue, might rage, might do something terrible. But instead, he just nodded slowly, something breaking in his expression. I really did love you once, he said quietly. I just forgot how. Then he left, and this time, I knew he wouldn't be back. With Dominic finally gone, something shifted. The house felt lighter, somehow. The shadows that had lurked in corners for years began to fade, replaced by sunlight and laughter and the sound of Sebastian's endless questions. Ethan became a regular presence. He'd show up with groceries, stay for dinner, help with bath time, and bedtime stories. We'd sit on the couch after Sebastian was asleep, talking for hours about everything and nothing. His work, my life before the marriage, his childhood, growing up in a small town, always feeling like he didn't quite belong. I was always looking for something, he said one night, his voice soft in the darkness. I didn't know it until I met you. I leaned into him, my head on his shoulder. I still don't remember. The hospital, I mean. I wish I did. Maybe it's better that way. You remember what matters. He pressed a kiss to my hair. You're here now. That's enough. But the memories were coming back, slowly in fragments. A voice, Ethan's voice, telling me to hold on. The warmth of a hand in mine. A face hovering above me, full of worry and hope. And sometimes, when I looked at Sebastian in a certain light, I saw Alexander. Not as a ghost, but as a presence. A warmth. A love that never died. I told Ethan about it one afternoon and he smiled. He's still here. Watching over you. Making sure you're okay. Do you believe in that? In an afterlife? I believe in energy.
Consciousness.
The things that make us who we are don't just disappear when our bodies fail. They transform. They move on. And sometimes, if we're lucky, they stay close enough to let us know we're not alone. I thought about Alexander. About the brother I'd lost too young, who'd somehow found a way to save me. About Sebastian, who carried a piece of him in his heart. I said slowly, I'd like to believe that too. 6 months passed. 6 months of healing, of learning, of falling in love with Ethan in ways I hadn't thought possible. 6 months of watching Sebastian thrive, surrounded by people who adore him. 6 months of becoming myself again. The woman I'd been before Dominic, before the marriage, before I'd lost myself in someone else's idea of who I should be. I started painting again. It had been years since I'd picked up a brush, but something about the new house, we'd moved, couldn't bear to stay in that place with all its memories, inspired me. Sunsets. Gardens. A small boy with ancient eyes. A man with whiskey-colored ones. My first exhibition was a small thing, a local gallery willing to give an unknown artist a chance. But when I walked in on opening night and saw my paintings on the walls, something in my chest swelled with pride. Ethan was there, of course. Sebastian, too, dressed in his fanciest outfit, clutching a bouquet of flowers he'd helped pick out. Mommy, your paintings are so pretty. He thrust the flowers at me, beaming. Daddy said you're a real artist now. I laughed, scooping him up. Daddy's very kind. He's also very nervous, Ethan murmured, appearing at my side. His face was slightly pale, and he kept glancing toward the back of the gallery. Nervous? Why? He didn't answer. Instead, he took my hand and led me through the crowd, past my paintings, past the guests, to a small room in the back. Sebastian had mysteriously disappeared with my mother, who'd materialized out of nowhere. Ethan, what's going on? He stopped in the center of the room and turned to face me. The room was empty except for a single painting on an easel, covered with a cloth. I've loved you for 5 years, he said quietly. From the moment I saw you in that hospital bed, pale and still, I knew. I knew you were the one. And I've waited, sometimes patiently, sometimes not, for you to be ready.
To heal.
To find your way back to yourself. Ethan. Let me finish. He took my hands. These 6 months have been the best of my life. Watching you bloom, watching you become the woman you were always meant to be. Falling in love with you 1,000 times over. And I don't want it to end. He reached behind him and pulled the cloth from the painting. It was me. Not as I was now, but as I'd been in the hospital, pale, unconscious, surrounded by machines. But there was something else in the painting, something I hadn't expected. A ghostly figure hovering beside the bed, one hand reaching toward me. The face was indistinct, but the love in that outstretched hand was unmistakable. Alexander, I breathed. Your brother asked me to watch over you, to protect you. But he also asked me to love you if I could, to give you the happiness you deserved. Ethan's eyes were bright. I've tried, Vivian. I've tried every day. And I want to keep trying for the rest of my life. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Vivian Montgomery, will you marry me? I stared at the ring, simple, elegant, a diamond that caught the light and scattered it like stars, and felt tears spill down my cheeks. Yes, I whispered. Yes, yes, yes. He slipped the ring onto my finger, and then his arms were around me, and I was laughing and crying at once, and somewhere in the background, I heard Sebastian cheering. Later, after the congratulations and the champagne and the endless questions, I stood alone in front of the painting. Alexander's ghostly figure seemed to smile at me, and I smiled back. Thank you, I whispered, for everything. A warmth brushed my cheek, like a kiss from somewhere far away. And then it was gone, and I was alone with my ring and my happiness and a future I never dared to imagine. We married in the garden of our new home, surrounded by flowers and family and the soft golden light of late summer. Sebastian was the ring bearer, solemn and proud in his little suit. My mother cried through the whole ceremony. My father walked me down the aisle, his arms steady, his eyes suspiciously bright. And Ethan waited for me at the altar, his whiskey-colored eyes full of tears and love and promises he'd already spent 5 years keeping. When we said our vows, simple, honest, from the heart, I felt something settle in my chest. A peace I hadn't known I'd been missing. A certainty that this was right. This was where I belonged. I promise to wait for you, Ethan said, his voice rough with emotion. As long as it takes, as far as you need to go. I'll be here. Always. I promise to remember, I replied. Every moment, every memory, every piece of the journey that brought us here. And to keep making new ones with you. We kissed, and Sebastian cheered, and the world dissolved into laughter and flowers and the sweet taste of happiness. That night, after Sebastian was asleep and the last guests had gone home, Ethan and I sat on the porch swing, watching the stars appear one by one. Happy? He asked. I leaned into him, my head on his shoulder, his arm around my waist. More than I ever thought possible. Good. He pressed a kiss to my hair. Me too. We sat in comfortable silence, the night wrapping around us like a blanket. And somewhere in the darkness, I felt a familiar warmth. Alexander, watching, smiling, finally at peace. I smiled back and held my husband's hand and let myself be happy. Hashtag epilogue, 5 years later. Sebastian is 10 now. He has his father's eyes and his uncle's wisdom and his mother's stubbornness, which makes for interesting parent-teacher conferences. Gifted, they tell us. Exceptionally bright. But he tends to correct the other students when they're wrong. Ethan and I exchange glances. He gets that from you, I murmur. I absolutely do not correct people. You absolutely do. Just yesterday, you told the grocery store clerk he was bagging the eggs wrong. That was a safety issue. Sebastian, listening to this exchange, rolls his eyes with the practiced expertise of a 10-year-old. You're both embarrassing me. We laugh, and the teacher looks confused, and life goes on. We have another child now, a girl, Lily, with Ethan's calm and my mischief. She's 2, and she rules the house with an iron fist wrapped in chubby fingers. Sebastian adores her. Ethan is wrapped around her tiny finger. I'm just trying to survive. Dominic, I hear, remarried. A young woman who looks a bit like I did, 10 years ago. I wish him well, genuinely, but I don't think about him much. He's a chapter of my life that's closed, and I don't need to reopen it.
My painting cell now.
Not enough to quit my day job, but enough to matter. Enough to feel like I'm making something beautiful out of the chaos. Enough to remind myself that I'm more than someone's wife, someone's mother, I'm me. Ethan still researches consciousness, still chases the boundaries between life and death. Sometimes he comes home with wild theories, and we debate them late into the night. Sometimes he comes home quiet, touched by something he can't explain. I hold his hand and listen, and that's enough. And Alexander? I feel him sometimes. In a warmth that settles over me when I'm sad. In the way Sebastian's eyes crinkle when he laughs. In the quiet moments when the world falls away and I'm left with nothing but love. He's still here, watching, waiting, finally at peace. One night, after the kids are asleep, Ethan and I sit on the porch swing and watch the stars. Do you think he's proud of us? I ask. Ethan knows who I mean. I think he's always been proud of you,
Of us.
of the family we built. I lean into him. I wish he could see it. He does. Ethan's arm tightens around me. In his way, he does. A warm breeze rustles through the garden, carrying the scent of jasmine and something else, something familiar, something loved. I smile. Thank you, Alexander. The breeze swirls once, twice, then settles into stillness. And somewhere in the darkness, I swear I hear laughter. Young, joyful, free. The laughter of a brother who never really left. The laughter of love that transcends everything. The laughter of home.